This training will provide an overview of termination and disqualification from Chapter 25, Serious Deficiencies, Suspensions, and Terminations. This video is presented by the Oregon Department of Education Child Nutrition Programs, also known as ODE-CMP. In this training, we will cover the background information for terminations, including definitions of terms used in the termination process, the federal regulations, and the reasons a sponsor may be terminated. Additionally, we will cover the steps of the termination process. Once you are done with this training, you will know the reasons a sponsor's agreement may be terminated and the organization and responsible individuals disqualified from operating the CACFP, and gain a broad understanding of the CACFP termination process. In the first section of this training, we will cover definitions of terms used in the termination process, the federal regulations that requires the termination process, and the reasons a sponsor may have their CACFP agreement terminated. We will start with some terms you will hear during this training and if you are going through the termination process. Seriously deficient, commonly referred to as SD, is the status of a sponsor that has been determined to be non-compliant in one or more aspects of the program. Proposed termination and disqualification, a formal notice from a state agency that a sponsor's agreement is being considered for termination and disqualification due to unresolved serious deficiencies. Termination, when an institution is removed from operating the CACFP and the state agency sponsor agreement is terminated. Disqualification, when an institution, a responsible principal or responsible individual, or a daycare home is ineligible for program participation. National Disqualified List means the list maintained by the USDA of institutions, responsible principals, and responsible individuals and daycare homes disqualified from participation in the program. Institutions, which is the entity or organization that signs the agreement with the state agency to operate the CACFP. Responsible Principals, RP, which are the sponsor's authorized representative, food program coordinator, financial office representative, the institution's executive director, board chair, for-profit business owners, managers, officers, board members, and any other principals who were responsible for program operations or should have known about a serious deficiency. Responsible Individuals, RI, which are non-principal individuals, including volunteers and contractors, associated with the institution's operation of the CACFP who bear some responsibility for a serious deficiency. An RPI may be a current or former employee. Though no longer employed by the institution, an individual may still be responsible for the serious deficiencies by his or her actions prior to leaving the institution. ODE-CMP is required by federal regulation to have a termination process. USDA Regulation 7 CFR 226.6 C3III-C identifies the state agency requirements for proposed termination and disqualification for participating sponsors. This regulation requires state agencies to propose termination and disqualification when timely corrective action is not taken to fully and permanently correct serious deficiencies. It also includes the required steps the state agency must take when proposing termination and disqualification. 7 CFR 226.6 C3III-E identifies the state agency requirements for agreement termination and disqualification for participating sponsors. This regulation requires state agencies to terminate and disqualify sponsor agreements when the time for requesting an appeal has passed without an appeal request being submitted, or when the appeal hearings official upholds the state agency's proposed termination and disqualification. Lastly, 7 CFR 226.6 C2III-D identifies the state agency requirement for agreement termination and disqualification for renewing sponsors. Following the federal regulations, ODE-CMP will move to immediately propose to terminate the state agency sponsor agreement to participate in the CACFP and proposed disqualification of the institution, its responsible principals, and responsible individuals, without any further opportunity for corrective action in the following situations. If the responses to corrective actions from a seriously deficient sponsor are not approved, submitted, completed, and/or implemented by the required due date, or if at a future time ODE-CMP identifies the sponsor has not fully and permanently corrected the serious deficiencies. It is time for a knowledge check. Which of the following is a reason ODE-CMP may propose termination and disqualification? A. A sponsor that has not been called seriously deficient previously submitted an inaccurate claim for reimbursement. B. During a review, ODE-CMP determines that a sponsor did not permanently correct a previous serious deficiency. C. A sponsor was determined to be seriously deficient and met all due dates with acceptable corrective actions that fully and permanently corrected the serious deficiencies. D. All of the above. The answer is B. ODE-CMP will propose termination if during subsequent reviews it is determined that the sponsor did not fully and permanently correct serious deficiencies. In this next section, we will cover the termination and disqualification process. This process offers a systematic way for state agencies to take actions to remove institutions and individuals from operating the CACFP. If institutions are unwilling or incapable of correcting serious problems, the termination and disqualification process protects program integrity by removing the institution from the program and preventing the institution and RPIs from returning to the program until the approval to reapply for participation is granted by USDA's Food and Nutrition Service, FNS. This process includes the final steps of the serious deficiency process discussed in the Chapter 25 Serious Deficiency Training. The steps covered in this training are notifications of proposed termination and disqualification, appeal process, and termination and disqualification or deferment. ODE-CMP will notify the sponsor of its intent to terminate the sponsor-state agency agreement. The notice of intent to terminate and disqualify will specify ODE-CMP is proposing to terminate the institution's agreement and to disqualify the institution and responsible principals and responsible individuals, the basis for the actions, that if the institution voluntarily terminates its agreement after receiving the notice of proposed termination, the institution and responsible principals and responsible individuals will be disqualified, the procedure for appeal of the proposed termination, and, unless participation has been suspended, if the sponsor appeals the intent to terminate, the sponsor may continue to participate and receive program reimbursement for eligible meals served until the appeal is completed. ODE-CMP will continue to pay any valid unpaid claims for reimbursement for eligible meals served until the program has not appealed the termination within the appeal timeframe, or, if appealed, until the appeal outcome has been issued. If ODE-CMP prevails in an appeal, ODE-CMP will not continue making program payments. If the sponsor prevails in an appeal, the sponsor may continue filing reimbursement claims. ODE-CMP may request claim documentation prior to payment. If the sponsor does not submit an appeal, the agreement will be terminated on the date given by ODE-CMP in the Notice of Intent to Terminate. Sponsors are provided appeal rights with the Notice of Proposed Termination and Disqualification. The proposed termination may be appealed. The sponsor must submit an appeal request per the appeal procedure within 15 days of receiving the Notice of Proposed Termination and Disqualification. The appeal hearing will result in either ODE-CMP prevailing and moving forward with the termination and disqualification, or with the sponsor prevailing and resulting in deferment, allowing the sponsor, responsible principals, and responsible individuals to continue participating in the CACFP. More information about the appeal process is available in the Chapter 26, the Appeal Process training. If a sponsor, responsible principal, and/or responsible individual loses an appeal, ODE-CMP will proceed with termination and disqualification. Termination and disqualification from participation in the CACFP will result in the institution, its responsible principals, and responsible individuals being prohibited from participation in the CACFP or the Summer Food Service Program and other sponsoring organizations. The institution, the responsible principals, and the responsible individuals are placed on the National Disqualified List, which is maintained by USDA, disqualifying all those listed from participation in the program anywhere in the United States for 7 years or until removed from the list by USDA. If an outstanding debt is owed to ODE-CMP, the debt must be repaid before a disqualified institution, responsible principal, or responsible individual can be removed from the National Disqualified List. If a sponsor, responsible principal, and/or responsible individual wins an appeal, ODE-CMP will defer the proposed termination and disqualification along with the serious deficiency that led to the proposed termination. The sponsor, responsible principals, and responsible individuals may continue to participate in the CACFP and other child nutrition programs. In this training, we covered the background information for terminations, including definitions of terms used in the termination process, the federal regulations, and the reasons a sponsor may be terminated. Additionally, we covered the steps of the termination process. ODE supports equity and excellence for every learner. This institution is an equal opportunity provider. Thank you for taking this training.